1.1 Approaching an assignment. When approaching an assignment, consider the whole process. Where will you work? How long do you have? What will you need? What is the genre? And who is your audience? Depending on the assignment and situation, you may identify different and additional elements to take into consideration. The goal is to think through what aspects of the situation you must take into account to begin an assignment successfully. Before beginning each assignment, spend a few minutes considering its goals and directions. Fulfilling an assignment is not unlike following a recipe. Before you start, you need to know what kind of cake you are baking, read the recipe, gather the ingredients, and make sure you have the necessary time and tools for the task. The first step in engaging any assignment is to understand the assignment. A useful practice is to cut and paste the relevant details from the assignment overview at the top of your page and write a brief summary of your understanding of the assignment. Elements of an assignment can include medium, the paper, the presentation, a poster, a quiz, the genre, narrative, expository or informative, argumentative or persuasive, the audience, your instructor, your classmates, a public space, and details, the due date, format, length, source requirements, evaluation expectations, rubrics, grading, and other expectations. If there are elements you do not understand, read all the relevant content carefully to make sure you didn't miss something. If you read the content related to the assignment and have a question, ask your instructor. While you don't want to ask before completing the readings, you also don't want to wait until the assignment is due and it's too late. Instructors love to know that you are interested and invested and want to make sure you feel comfortable and confident with the expectations of the assignment. Instructors also appreciate when you reference the reading as part of your question and show that you tried to answer the question or understand the content. Because the writing process is part of the content for ENC 1101, a number of steps in the writing process will be made explicit and will be included in the larger project as graded tasks. The content that will be engaged over the course of the project will continue to roll out throughout the project, so it's okay if you don't understand every step at the beginning. Remember that there is not one singular writing process that all writers must follow in all situations. Processes vary across individuals, and as we evolve as writers, our individual process will continue to develop and become advanced enough to allow us to respond to elements such as genre and audience that should impact not only the written product, but also the writing process. In general, writing assignments vary across discipline, department, course, and instructor. Some writing assignments include explicitly stated and scaffolded steps in the process, which means that they build upon each other. And some even include submission of smaller steps throughout the process. For instance, reading and research might be submitted in the form of an annotated bibliography or outline. Once you learn how the steps work for you, you can become part of your personal writing process across courses. Assumed expectations. Even when these steps are not assigned, they are assumed as part of the writing process required to succeed in university-level writing assignments. If an assignment states that scholarly sources should be included, it probably will not explain that you need to locate, read, and annotate an appropriate source so that it can be integrated into the assignment. In fact, that step in the process is an unstated expectation because it is required in order to fulfill the assignment guideline of including scholarly source material. The instructor who created the task expects that students understand the necessary steps in the writing and research process and are proficient in the associated skill. When steps such as outlining and revising are not required or graded in the assignment, some students skip these steps or simply do not realize their importance or know how to complete them independently. An important goal of ENC 1101 is to learn and practice a number of the skills required to be a successful writer across situations so that your process can continue to develop as you grow as a reader, writer, and learner. Every one of us is capable of becoming an independent learner and taking ownership of our education and responsibility for our success. As you read an assignment and start the planning process, note which steps are overt in the assignment and which are assumed as your responsibility. If the steps in the writing process are not included as part of the submission, Be sure to add these steps to your own timeline so that you don't run out of time and miss the opportunity. Think of a cooking show. Just because the producers only show you certain steps in the final product of the cake, that doesn't mean the bakers didn't follow all the steps of the recipe off screen. Similarly, when a step in the research and writing process isn't assigned or submitted, the expectation is that the work is completed independently, which requires you to be aware of your individual research and writing process, and to be self-sufficient in relation to planning and managing your efforts. You might have a personalized approach to mixing the elements, or you might like a different kind of flour. So you will want to take the opportunity to learn your own best practices, but no one can skip major steps in the recipe and still make a delicious cake. In Project 1, the steps are included as tasks within each activity. The tasks include new content in the form of text or video and practice with the skills associated with each step. But again, when these elements are not stated explicitly, you will want to develop your own process and your own personal approach. In other words, if you are not required to annotate the reading so that you are prepared to write a summary in response, it is still a best practice and is an assumed step in university level reading and research. Are you making notes and commenting on this text now? Whether or not annotating the reading is assigned and submitted, as an advanced reader, you should have your own personal practice. Some students read and annotate in a digital space. Some read on a laptop but make notes on paper. Some print course readings and write on the dock. These practices vary in relation to the kind of material being read and the purpose. If you have an established approach to reading, feel free to use that method. But as we advance through the course, and as you move into upper level courses in your discipline, your approach to reading and annotating should evolve, just like your process of writing. Another, sometimes unassigned, expectation of university level work is an organized system of storing assignments in a place where they are safe and accessible. Whether you use folders on flash drives or categories in clouds or public web portfolios, it is important to develop a method that works for you, now and for later. One option is to start a new folder each term and create a subfolder for each class within the folder for that term. You will also want to develop a naming strategy for each draft and assignment that works for you. You should have signed up for access to Google Suite, so you can access your Drive and Docs from any computer. You also have access to Word Online as an app. Sometimes you will use more than one option, perhaps constructing in one space and storing in another, which can be confusing without a basic system. Not only will you need to produce copies of your work for this course, but you will also perhaps need to reference materials for future courses, which will require knowing where the documents are stored and how they are named. Because the course content is intended to transfer across academic areas, maintaining access is important. Transfer and access. Remember that each assignment is part of a larger syllabus and feeds future assignments and overall themes and goals. Many of your minor assignments help you prepare for a major assignment. Researching a topic in one class can impact your topic selection for an assignment in a seemingly unrelated course. You can think even bigger by considering that you might use your future studies or jobs as personal endeavors. The content of ENC 1101 is designed to develop skills that will transfer into other areas of your academic practice and material that will be useful across majors and throughout and beyond your time at USF. Many of the resources we engage and the skills you develop will help you build the overall competencies expected of all USF graduates. You will also explore your personal writing process and practice adapting your writing to different audiences or communities while developing individual approaches that continue to build upon basic skills and practices in preparation for the specific content and conventions of your chosen field of study. Reading, annotating, summarizing, writing, communicating, collaborating, and other skills we practice will also serve you well on any career path you find yourself following. In addition, throughout the semester, you will be engaged in a process of self-discovery that will hone your writing skills and feed intrapersonal, such as tenacity, and interpersonal, such as collaboration, competencies. Once you understand the assignment and have created a plan to approach each step, you are ready to dive in. Unknown variables can always impact your process, so the ability to code switch through varieties of language in writing and conversation, and code mesh, combine different types of language and literacy practices when you want to adapt your language is important. Knowing that there are steps and that you are ready will help you focus and relieve the initial anxiety of not knowing where or how to start. And even if your first few cakes are too sweet, know that with practice and more time in the kitchen, you will be able to bake anything. Assignment 1.1. After you complete this reading on strategies to approach an assignment, identify 5 main ideas that you think are the most important and useful takeaways for you. For each of the 5, write 1 sentence explaining the point and why you think it is important and useful for you in your process. Be sure to use complete sentences and reference the point directly from the reading. Upload your 5 sentences to Assignment 1.1 in Canvas.